This is Bleav, Georgia Dawgs podcast on the Bleav Podcast Network.
Scored a touchdown earlier on a direct snap. Now it's Michelle's turn, running all the way. Gets to the edge. Sonny Michelle will send the Dawgs home to the championship game.
53.5-yard drive near hash, kicking right, snap, hold, kick is away, it's reaching, and it is good, good, good. Hot Pod does it. All right, Hot Pod.
Dawgs with an up and out, wide open, touchdown, Israel 2.
All right, welcome in to the Bleav in Georgia Dawgs podcast on the Bleav Network. Joining me is a very, very special guest. He is the president and CEO of the Peach Bowl. It's Gary Stokan. Gary, how you doing, man?
Doing great. Thanks for having us. Merry Christmas, Corey, to you and all your listeners.
Absolutely, and the same to you. Merry Christmas to you, your family, and the entire Peach Bowl committee. So I'm glad you could make it. I'm glad you could join us here. It's a very, very huge event. It's part of the college football playoff, Georgia versus Ohio State. Couldn't think of a better matchup. So, talk to me a little bit about the matchup, what you feel about it, how you feel about having Georgia in your backyard. The Peach Bowl is always a great event, and any event you guys put on with the Chick-fil-A Kickoff Classic and all that stuff, it's such a great event. Tell me about this matchup.
Well, we're really excited to have Georgia back again for the third time in Atlanta, playing in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We started the season with Georgia, Oregon, number one, Georgia against number 12, Oregon. And we finished the season with number 1, Georgia against number 4, Ohio State. So it's great to have two big brands playing in prime time, New Year's Eve, and playing in the CFP semifinal at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. So really excited. We were at Ohio State on Tuesday, and then Georgia on Wednesday with our press conferences. Yeah, you can feel the energy of the both schools about this game. It's going to be a huge game, certainly.
Absolutely. I think everybody's anticipating this. It's the New Year's Eve. It's going to lead right into the ball drop. So that's exciting, man. That's exciting. I'm pumped. As you can tell from behind me. There's one team that I've been in particular rooting for. This is the Bleav in Georgia Dawgs podcast, nonetheless. So, Gary, when it comes to the selection process, when it's your bowl's turn to be in the college football playoff, and then versus when it's not your turn to be in the college football playoff, how does the selection process work? Talk me through that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I've been in the room in Gaylord, Texas, where the Gaylord Hotel in Dallas, Texas, where they actually CFP selection committee actually selects the teams, and going through all the computer analysis and all the information that they get. And it's really a great process. They ask the committee to put together their first 3 teams, input it in the computer. Then the computer spits out 1, 2, 3. Then they go to the next 3 and the next 3, et cetera, until they get to 25.
Oh, wow.
Then the committee would look at all top 25 and say, okay, have we placed the right teams in the right place? And if you disagree, you have to make a case, just like an attorney does, of why that team is not placed in the right place. And then someone has to agree with you. And if you get 2 people to agree, and you recast the top 3, the next 3, et cetera. So their their head-to-head, their conference schedule, how many top 25 teams they beat, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really a good process. And obviously, I thought this was going to be the toughest selection process in the 9 years we've had the CFP, and winds up that it was the easiest. So
that's surprising.
We're blessed to have number 1 against number 4, Georgia against Ohio State.
Absolutely. And from the fans' perspective, from our perspective, it looked like it was probably going to be one of the toughest because you had TCU, who unfortunately lost their conference championship, so we didn't know what was going to happen with that. And then the tough sell of, who's that fourth team now with Ohio State, with Tennessee, with Alabama in the mix, and then what do you do with TCU since they lost so late? So like it's surprising that selection process was easier than I think we all thought as fans.
Yeah, if you think about it, 2 weeks out, you're looking at Clemson. If they beat South Carolina and they beat North Carolina in the ACC championship, they're in a 12-1 team with a conference championship, and they're probably in.
Yeah, and USC the same way.
If USC beats Utah, they're going to make a great case. And if in those cases, if those two would have won and TCU loses to Kansas State, who knows? TCU might have been out, and Clemson and USC.
Yeah, I mean that's a definite possibility. Absolutely, man. It's exciting. And when you're looking at the bowls, like when you're looking at your partner bowls, like how do you figure out who gets the number one team? Is it up to the team or is it up to the bowls?
Yeah, it's a great question. The CFP selection committee will only give one team any kind of consideration, and that's that they will place the number one team geographically at an advantage for that team and their fans. So obviously Georgia, being number one, makes the most sense to come to Atlanta rather than go all the way to Phoenix.
That's right.
And that's how Georgia wind up in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl.
And then all the pieces fall after that. So you got Michigan and TCU on the other side. So playoff expansion. We've talked about playoff expansion. Obviously all the New Year's Six bowls would be a part of that. What does that mean for college football? I know that's on the horizon. What does that mean for college football? Is it a good thing, bad thing?
Well, I think it's a great thing, and that allows more participation by more teams and more student athletes, number one. Number two, for the fans, it allows those fans to have their teams still in October and November be a part of potentially getting into the playoff. Right now, if you have two losses, no two-loss team has ever made the CFP Final Four. So, a team with two losses in November could still possibly find its way into a 12-team playoff. So I think that's a good thing. More promotion of the game. College football is the second most favorite sport in the country. So I think adding networks, and ESPN does a great job, but they're probably going to add some more networks. They're probably going to add more opportunities for people in stadium, local campus, and then the quarters and semis. So win-win-win across the board for the fans, the teams, the players, the media. So it's all good.
Yeah, it's you can't beat it. I mean, some of those debates that we were having with Tennessee, Alabama, Clemson would still be in that. Kansas State, Big 12 champion, would now get a seat at it where they don't, being at number 10. You have a Utah team that just demolished USC in the Pac-12 championship would be in it. So that's exciting right there. And I think it's, to me personally, I was one of the ones that was, every time they mentioned 12-team playoff, I was always, hey, gung-ho about, hey, let's go, 12-team playoff. 12. I mean, everybody else does it. So it can only work. It can only be better for college football.
Yeah, if you think about the NCAA Final Four basketball, there's 69 teams that get in. And in college football, with 130 teams, there was only 4 teams getting in. So, this will allow more participation, more teams, and, I think more activity and more talk about college football throughout the season.
It can only be better for the sport as a whole, and it's a sport that's already thriving. So it can only get better. Gary,
college football is the second most favorite sport in the country. So this will only endear it to more people throughout the country, certainly.
Absolutely. So as I was reading your bio, I noticed that you were part of the leadership group that got the College Football Hall of Fame moved to Atlanta. I've been several times, and I've discovered something new every single time. I've always enjoyed myself there. Talk about that process. Well, like what happened with that? Like, how did you make that happen? That's a very, very cool thing.
Well, thanks for that. I appreciate the compliment. I went to South Bend in 2001 and walked through the College Football Hall of Fame as I was going up the induction ceremonies in South Bend. And it was very antiquated. I walked through with Mel Moore, the old AD at Alabama, who's since passed away. And he said, Gary, there's nothing with Bear Bryant in this Hall of Fame. And I said, well, how can that be? And I said, if this were in Atlanta, it'd be tremendous. They were doing about approximately 60,000 people through there on an annual basis. And I said, we'd triple that in Atlanta. So I started the process of talking to the NFF, National Football Foundation, which owns the Hall of Fame. And come 2010, they were moving out. Well, I shouldn't say moving out. Their contract ended with South Bend.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, we'll move it to Atlanta. You can't bid it out. If we sign the letter, we'll commit to getting it built. And so I became the CEO of Atlanta Hall Management. We started a new 501c3. I went to my board. We put the first $5 million in from Peach Ball Inc. And we got Chick-fil-A to match that.
Oh, yeah.
And I got the governor, Sonny Perdue, to help us with a site on state property. And he helped us in what was the worst budget ever in the state in 2008 and 9. Remember when
all the big recessions,
right, the bank recession. And so, we started there, and, I was part of I signed the 30-year license to move the hall in 2000 to Atlanta. We won in 2014, and it's been a great asset to downtown Atlanta, great asset to college football.
And absolutely, man. And I think where you hit a home run with designing that whole place, and it brought me back to my childhood because, growing up in Atlanta, just right down the road in Fayetteville, I live in Nashville now, but growing up right down the road in Fayetteville, when the Super Bowl came in 1994, I went to the NFL Experience. And they had all those like events that you do, the punting event, like you run through the dummies and catch balls, you get your picture made and all that stuff. And that just brought me back, going to the College Football Hall of Fame and doing all those little event things. It brought that memory back. And that's one of my favorite parts. I mean, obviously the exhibits are the main event, but like getting to do all of those things is incredible. So like with the design process, like what was the thought of like designing the path that you go through, some of the amenities that you have available for guests? What was the process like that for planning how it was going to be laid out?
Well, you've been there, and so I wanted to start the experience for the fan like they were at a college football game. So everybody that has a credential feels important, and they get a chance to walk on the field. So I wanted a credential to be and then we went to 11 around the country, from New York to New Orleans to DC to LA and to Canton, Ohio for the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Right.
And about a mile away from the Pro Football Hall of Fame, there was a little children's museum that when we walked in, they had an RFID chip they put on your wrist, and you interacted with each of the exhibits. And I said, we need to put that RFID chip in the credential so that when you walked up to an exhibit, it would welcome you. Number one, it would say your name. And then number two, it would have your logo of your team. And then I wanted everybody to experience all the teams. Everybody loves to look at helmets and different designs. So we made the exhibit wall of all the helmets. When you first walk in, you get your credential with the RFID chip. And then I wanted people to feel like they were walking through the tunnel like a player.
Yeah.
And then onto the field. And so that's why we have a little tunnel there where you can touch the Rock of Clemson.
Oh, wow. Yes.
All the traditions. And then when you walk out, you're on the field. And you can kick a field goal, you can catch a pass, but you feel like you're part of the game. Mm-hmm. So that was the experience that we wanted to create. And, I think we did a pretty good job of that. And then obviously the phrase I used with the architects and designers was we had to build an edutainmuseum. It had to be educational, entertaining, and then a museum. If we build a museum, we fail because it had to be highly interactive, because young people, that's what they like to do. And so that's why you have a mix of, a film when you first start the process of seeing, and hearing from all the great players that have played the game and feel those chills. So that's the kind of experiences that we wanted to create. And I appreciate your compliments that we rang the bell on that one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I figured there was some sort of reason, but like you felt, you walked through that tunnel and just, like that brings back memories of like playing high school football and everything, playing the game and trying to guess the helmets, and the interactive stuff was brilliant. And the only thing I failed at was kicking the field goal. I couldn't make the field goal. I'm not a kicker. So that was the only thing I would walk away with. Okay, next time I go, I'm going to make this field goal. So that's my next goal. Next time I'm down in Atlanta, next time I'm at the College Football Hall of Fame. That is it. So Gary, I want to thank you for joining me here today. I appreciate you. I appreciate your patience. We had a little bit of technical difficulties at the start. So we are glad that the Peach Bowl is the home for the Georgia Bulldogs this season for the college football playoff. You guys put on such a great event. It's amazing. And, I know Georgia's played well in it. I know every game. I always watch the Peach Bowl. I always watch the Chick-fil-A Kickoff Classic, all of that stuff. It's always great matchups, always good. Before we let you go, like I said, it's been an honor. I do want to know how you guys picked the college football Kickoff Classic.
To really kick off the season in the first week of football with different data points, because all you control as an AD is those 3 games or 4 games, depending on what conference you're in. ACC, SEC only play 8 conference games, so you schedule 4 non-conference, and Big 12, Pac-12, and Big 10 schedule 9 conference, so you only have control of 3 games. So
right,
you got to make sure you schedule a tough competition, because the CFP demands that when they make their selections. So, this has been a big hit. We wanted to create the BCS of college football on the front side of the season. We called it the Daytona 500 of college football.
Yes.
That's what it is.
It is. It absolutely is. And now you've got more than one game. So you got the primetime Saturday game, and then now you've got the Labor Day game as well. So that's been a huge upgrade.
Yeah, we work with the ACC, who owns those rights for the primetime ESPN slot on Monday night. And we work with them when it makes sense to have 2 games, one on Saturday and then one on that exclusive Monday night slot.
Absolutely. And man, it's been great for college football. It's been great for that Labor Day weekend. You got wall to wall. You even got the Friday night stuff, and then you come in Saturday. You got great games all day Saturday. You had that primetime game on Sunday, and then of course round 2 of the Chick-fil-A kickoff on Monday night. So it just rounds out that weekend prior to the NFL, where college football is the ultimate king, where there's no other competition. So you guys, like I said, you guys keep nailing it, man. And it's great. Y'all keep killing it. You got to show everybody else how it's done.
Well, we try. That's why a lot of media calls the capital of college football, with the Hall of Fame here, and being a part of the New Year's Six and hosting the semis every 3 years, having the Chick-fil-A kickoff game, and we'll be the first ones to host the CFP for the second time in 2025 when we host the national championship. So we're going to keep working to make Atlanta the capital of college football, and thanks to all of your support of fans, support of corporations, and our great volunteer staff and board.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to go enjoy a Chick-fil-A sandwich. I'm going to enjoy some Chick-fil-A while I watch this game. So to give a shout out to your sponsors. But Gary, I thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate it. And, like I said, keep doing what you're doing, keep killing it, keep ruling college football. And we'll try to get Georgia in that national championship in 2025.
There you go. Thanks, Corey. Good to see you. Have a Merry Christmas, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You do the same. Merry Christmas, and may the game be best game on the college football bowl slate.
Thanks, Corey. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it.